Now, 666 means that he's identifying with the physical plane because, like we spoke before, is that everybody is a carbon being or carbon-based being or a carbon unit.
Sure.
All right, black folks are a carbon unit because we have the dark matter stored up within our physical body, and the light hides within. Okay, but the darkness comprehended it not until you comprehend it at your own chosen time. Okay, Europeans, on the other hand, don't have the essence of the dark matter material. They have very small amounts, and so small until, you know, we can't visually, you know what I'm saying, pinpoint, I guess you would say, the so-called nanograms in which that is excreted from the so-called pineal gland. Because supposedly, in order for you to be a melanated being, you have to have at least over 70 nanograms of melatonin flowing from the pineal gland. So if you don't have that, then that means that you're not a so-called quote-unquote melanated being. You're something else, and that something else is a carbon-based being. And they have the basis or the basics of life. Like, for example, they have the structure of the amino acids, which are known as the building blocks of life, in which that forms to make giant molecules known as DNA. So they have that, of course, but they are easier to destabilize than we are. That's why they have tried everything at us, because our melanin has a tendency of changing, adapting to environments, to situations, to events. Well, you have 7 endocrine gland systems.
Right.
Okay, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, parathyroid glands, the thyroid glands, the thymus gland, the pancreas, as well as also the prostate gland with men, and within women, the uterus. So those 7 glands represents, in a sense, the balance of the 70% of water within your body. Huh?
Like the chakras?
Well, they the light either superimposes or is inside, nestled at the bundle core of the nerves. See, what happens is that these nerves, fibers, become so refined as they cluster together till light is produced, which actually taps you not just into the light world, but into what is called the astral or etheric plane. In other words, the nerves get so thin until they become visible looking at it. And that visibility transforms into light. In other words, you can't see the nerve ending because they keep going and going, but the finished product, if you look back at it, is light. It's hard to explain. I'll have to.
I find it problematic that you can find things like melatonin and other hormonal things.
Well, a lot of them now.
Especially like, you know, the black folks.
Well, a lot of them now are synthetic. Matter of fact, it said that the Atlanta child murders, Jim Jones, you know, almost 1,000 black folks dying, you know what I'm saying, from supposedly Kool-Aid cyanide poisoning. Sure. That all of that supposedly was a CIA testing grounds for studying melanated people. And not just studying melanated people, but also extracting these melatonins and serotonin chemicals from the brain. Because, like for example, in the Atlanta child murders, it said that there was holes at the back of the head of some of these little boys and girls. And matter of fact, some of the little boys, tips of their penises was cut off. So these are actually sacrifices, satanic sacrifices and rituals in which that is performed by these, I guess you say, the puppets of these Illuminati groups and families and clans. For example, the Rockefellers is one of the primary ones in which that do these studies. That's what Rockefeller University is for. That's what, right. All of this stuff is funded through them, by them, because they're the ones in which that supposedly are the rulers of the Western Hemisphere, is the Rockefeller family. the Rothschild family are supposedly the rulers of the Eastern Hemisphere, of Europe and Australia and different other places, South Africa. Right, right. So, these are the ones in which they tell their quote-unquote puppets what to do in order to, what is the next study and fix for the elite. What these glands are for are to keep, once again, the balance and the harmony and the order and the truth of the physical body. In other words, that's what the goddess Ma represent, is the balance of those 7 hormones of those glands.
That's deep, because if you look at what the pancreas does for your body with regard to balancing your sugar and things of that nature, from a physical standpoint, it does that.
Exactly. And matter of fact, that's what insulin is the hormone which is secreted from the pancreas. Thyroxine is what is produced from the thyroid gland or the parathyroid glands. Thymium, which is produced from the thymus gland. As we know, the pituitary gland is HGH, which is human growth hormone.
I'm like, no, I don't like that stuff.
You don't like that stuff,
with HGH.
But see, the thing is that it's funny that they making all of these things available now, to the public so easily. But the thing is that they claim that it's synthetic, but we know that they had to have at one time some type of organic, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, some type of template.
Right. There's a template, right, exactly. There had to be an organic template somewhere. And that was used. It's funny that they keep making synthetic things when there's so many natural things in which they can do the same things. But then they move the natural things from off the market.
Sure.
And then replace them with all this synthetic thing. And come to find out that 98% of the food in the supermarket now is genetically altered. So, basically, yeah. So we thank you for having stores like this.
Yes.
But there's still some compromise.
Oh yeah, there's still some compromise, of course. I understand. But still, the thing is that at least, you can tell the customer if you choose to which product is better for you.
It's a vehicle.
Right. You still get that option. I don't think they took that from you. They ain't take that from you.
What?
Your option of being able to tell the customer what's
and I tell them.
Yeah, well, as long as you got that option, then, it don't matter if you got to compromise, because you ain't going to be compromising too bad, because you'll be like, yeah, let me show you this. So thing is that what we're saying is that there's a lot of stuff in which that we definitely have to research as far as these families. I've spoken before in these families, and I can't get off of them because they are the ones, right, they're not getting off of us, and plus they run so much stuff. Like I said before, M. Rothschild, when he passed, he had over $600 trillion of gold, bless you, in his basement. $600 trillion of gold in his basement. That's just in his basement. They ain't talking about in his account, the money that he had in his account. I'm not talking about what the family assets was worth. I'm not talking about the companies that he had, or, you know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about $600 trillion in his basement alone.
Gold.
And gold.
Not paper money.
Not paper money. Because gold is
wealth.
what?
It's real money.
It's real money, right. It's what used to back, silver and gold used to back the paper. But since 1972, with Tricky Dick, he signed,
Took us off
the gold standard, and so the thing is now the paper is definitely, the money is definitely worth no more than what they printed on, as they say. Some say that it's worth probably about 25 cents now, if that. When I was coming up, they said 35 cents, but I know how they had dropped by now. I heard statements like Bush along with Greenspan, they can just make it up as they go along anyway.
Yeah.
So,
it don't really matter anyway.
Right, it don't really matter. So, you know what I'm saying? I heard there's no gold in Fort Knox anyway, because there's no need for it, because it's not there to back anything. So, these are all things in which that I know that we just got to continue doing studying on. These families, the Astors, the Bundys, the Collins, the DuPonts, the Moors, the Lees, the Freemans, the Reynolds, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Russells, the Van Dyne, the Merovingian family, and Disney. These are all the families in which that, and Kennedys and Onassis. These are all the families in which that have the most quote unquote resources and monies in the world, and they have all come together and intermarried within each other. That's why after Kennedy got knocked off in the '60s, his wife Jackie married who? Onassis. Aristotle Onassis, exactly. So the families marry into each other over and over again in order to keep what? The money in the family. So it's all politics and it's all a game with these people. These people live for the entertainment and the propaganda. Basically, the entertainment given to us to look at it and analyze and to laugh at. They think the world is a stage, you know what I'm saying, that each one of us are actors that plays our parts. So
these strings.
Right. And they basically the puppet masters. You just look at the movies Godfather 1, 2, and 3. It shows the whole plot right up in that piece. It's right up in there. It shows you, you know what I'm saying, the mafia in bed, like you said, is right
the Catholic
there.
Church.
The Catholic Church. There's a book that we have. It's called. They call it a conspiracy.
Yeah.
In which they speak about that tie and connection. The Biggest Secrets by David Icke breaks down within there about the Catholics and the mafia connection. And the whole thing is this, is that the mafia is the protection for the Vatican. If, for example, if any of the quote-unquote blacks raise up, you know what I'm saying? For example, Ethiopia had never been conquered. You know what I'm saying? That's why they always try going into Ethiopia in order to try to conquer them, because they was the only ones in which they'd never been conquered. So, you know, that's why the rosters, you know, love, you know, Haile Selassie, you know what I'm saying, so much, was because Ethiopia was one of the last continents, you know, one of the last, you know what I'm saying, lands, right, in which that was never conquered. So the thing is that, what was it in which that they was working with? You know what I'm saying? Some say that the reason why they was never conquered was because they had what was known as the Ark of the Covenant. Okay?
And the spiritual presence that that
Now,
gave.
don't you think that the Catholic Church would want that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they would want that because they done had all these fake behind relics, you know what I'm saying, anyway. You know what I'm saying? Talking about they had the hair of Jesus, they had the water in which they had the wine of Jesus, they done had the footsteps of Jesus, as you know what I'm saying?
Trace the footsteps.
Right. You know, all this nonsense, you know what I'm saying? They done propagated ever since the mid-1500s, if not longer. You know what I'm saying? During the so-called Dark Ages. So this is the, you know, so this is all the key in which that, that's what it was all built up for. You know what I'm saying? Also, you have the connection between the Vatican and the Merovingian family. The Merovingian family, if you go and get the new movie Matrix, or go watch the movie Matrix Reloaded, you have a Frenchman who plays the head of the Merovingian family in the movie.
Yeah, I remember that cat with the white suit on.
Right. He was talking about the female.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, his wife sold him out.
Right.
Yeah.
And the wife said, "Yeah, I ain't talking about the lipstick on your lips. I'm talking." You know what I'm saying? So that right there showed this connection about who controls this matrix. Because come to find out that the Merovingian family are the ones who is over the Vatican, the mafia, as well as the rest of the families. They are the 13th family. They represent being a connection and having the purest bloodline of Jesus and Lucifer. Now I told you who their savior was. Their savior supposedly was Ptolemy I, which that, as we know, that the Ptolemy ruled for had the longest ruling within Egypt. of the dynasties. How was that, and why was that? Because Alexander the Great invaded, you know what I'm saying, Egypt, Kemet, and he asked permission. Could he become part of the ancient mystery schools? The teachers, they turned him down. Why? Because he was a barbarian. He was a killer, a murderer. And we don't allow nobody up in there. Plus, you're white. You don't allow nobody up in here like that. His father tried, Philip tried, got, you know what I'm saying, discouraged, and had to get the heck up out of here. But Ptolemy succeeded where Alexander the Great fell. Ptolemy the First happened to have been the brother of Alexander the Great, or so-called great. I call him the fake. Also the son of Philip, you know what I'm saying? So what happened is that the Ptolemies are the ones who got the information and got inside the ancient mystery schools, and in which they caused a diaspora of the priests to move the information throughout the world. And the reason why that was done for the priests to move the information throughout the world was because they knew that if the information stayed just within that location, the Ptolemy family conquering them, then they could have changed the information. So that's the reason why other religions was invented or brought about. For example, Laotazi, as they call them, in which that formed Taoism, Taoism, as they call it. All right, that happened around 500 BC. Confucianism, by Confucius, also happened around 500 BC. The writings within the Bible, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, Malachi, all of those was around 500 BC. Okay, the priest, Buddha. Buddha was said to have been a priest in Karnak, in Kemet, and that he took the teachers back to India. So right there, that's showing that even Buddhism started around 500 BC. So you had Siddhartha Gautama, who was Buddha, as they call him, who left his family in India, his wife, because he was a prince. He left his princess and his 2 children, okay, to come to Egypt in order to learn the science and the information of the Egyptians, of the Kemites, because it was the foremost world. It was the gathering of the information was centered during that time. It's like Timbuktu, hundreds of years later, becomes the hub of information, and everybody from around the world gathered there. That's what Egypt represented during that time period. So you had the diaspora of all of these priests from out of ancient Kemet, in which that religions around the world began to form around 500 BC. So that means that we have to go back and look within and study Taoism. We have to go back and look and study Buddhism. We have to go back and look and study Confucianism. We have to go back and look and study the Bible, the Old Testament prophets, known as Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, and Malachi, and those. And we have to go back and study them and study what was actually being said, because that's supposed to have been information which that came out through the priest system of the ancient Kemites from the ancient mystery schools. And that was so, once again, to make sure that the information stayed correct. The thing is that we know that the word Buddha itself, in translation of the word Buddha means enlightened one, but it also means black one. All right. It said that Laotazi was born from a quote unquote a black virgin. Okay? This is what this is said. This is within the Cambridge dictionary, not dictionary, but encyclopedia. Okay. So this is, I mean, it's right there within their own text that these people were black. Jeremiah said that the tribe of Israel was black unto the ground, okay, which he himself was an Israelite. So that means that he was black, okay. So, you know, the thing is that, that's what I'm saying about research, that when you research, you knock out all the nonsense as far as what is being portrayed around the subject, and you get right to the point. Okay, the point is that all of these people were black, and it's been verified by European historians and anthropologists. But I see another thing too was that gives good a good book was by Check Diop.
Oh, yeah.
African civilization, myth of reality.
Yeah, you get it from
It speaks
culture.
within there about the cultural and religious diaspora from out of ancient Kemet, as those priests spread those teachings throughout the world. And it all happened once again around 500 BC. And that was around the time of the invasion of Philip and Alexander the Great. Around that same time period. It was actually around maybe 500, 400 BC.
400 to 500 BC.
Right, around that time period. Now, who was Philip? Philip was what? Macedonia. Macedonia. So that means that you have to study the Macedonian, do research on the Macedonian around 500, 400, 300 BC and find out what is going on. You find out there are all types of invasions by the Macedonians, in which that becomes the Persians, in which that becomes the Greeks. What's going on? In other words, they was trying to find the secrets and the source of the key of life. They were trying to find the reason behind the pump. Okay? The Sphinx representing earth, air, water, and fire, and it's a combination ether. For example, you find out that the Sphinx at one time had wings on it. Those wings represents the eagle. The eagle represents within astrology Scorpio. Okay. At one time, you was able to see the scales. Well, I ain't gonna get into the scale thing, but the tail, in which that is the tail of a bull, in which that is symbolic to Taurus within astrology. Then you have the head, in which that used to be a head of a woman, in which they say is the head of a man by the name of Khufu, or Cheops, which actually he did not design that. He might have put his name on some of the temples, but he was not the one who did it. That is a pygmy or a twa face. It's a woman's face. Actually, it is real form. Okay. And the head represents Aquarius. But see, the thing is too, is that the Sphinx also represents, the body of the Sphinx represents what? The lion, which is symbolic to Leo within astrology. So you have Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, and you have Aquarius. Those 4 points, or 4 zodiac signs, represents what is known as what the mutable,
The fixed signs.
the fixed signs,
The cardinal points.
as well as the cardinal points and the mutable points.
Right.
In other words, it represents, if you look, like for example, give you an example here. Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. But then, if you go to any map of the zodiac, you will find out, or constellation or whatever, you will find out that it takes the sun 26,000 years or 25,928 years to travel through all 12 zodiac signs. But this here shows the points, the mutable, fixable, and the cardinal points. All right. Within your Bible, it tells you the same thing. You go to the book of Ezekiel, you go to the book of Daniel, and you go to the book of Revelations. It speaks about that. For example, it tells you that Ezekiel seen a will within a will. And when the wheels landed, he seen what? The first creature, that of a man, had a head of a man. The next creature had a head of what? A bull. And then the next creature had a head of what? A lion. The next creature had a head of a what? An eagle. This is what this is all symbolic to. The will within the will is talking about astrology being the will, and then the will inside of you talk about the chakras and how the chakra system coincide with the astrology. As above, so below. As within, so without. So that's how all of this coincides. Then you come to find out that the Sphinx sits at 19.5 degrees, okay, on the continent of Africa. In other words, dead smack in the center of the earth, the pyramids was laid. The Sphinx sits at 19.5 degrees. And that's deep because come to find out that at 19 degrees, if you take a 6-point star and what is known as a tetragram, and you take a tetrahedron, you would take it and superimpose it or overlay it on top of any planet at 19.5 degrees within our solar system, you will find an upswelling of energy. An upswelling. Well, hold up. What you want to happen within your physical body? You want the Kundalini energy to upswell. You get this? So at 19.5 degrees, you find the upswelling of energy. Okay? Now, what also is fascinating is that it ties back to the name Mary is what I'm talking about. You go to the Holy Quran, the 19th chapter of the Holy Quran happens to be named after Mary. So the 19th surah of the Quran is named after Mary. Her name within Arabic is Maryam.